All right, so episode 34, my year in review. Well, a lot has happened this year, and I am ready to take a look back and reflect for a few reasons. Well, first, this was definitely a year of challenges for me, I'd say, but I managed to make it through. Obviously, I'm still here. And second, this was probably the most selfish year of my life, I'd say. I invested just a lot of time in my personal self and the goals that I wanted to achieve, and I intend to do so in 2024 as well. But before I do, and before I start laying down the groundwork for how I'm going to tackle the new year, let's discuss 2023. So I came into 2023 with a couple of resolutions or goals in mind. Now, like most people, most of those resolutions typically run out until like March and then just fizzle out. And at 28 years old, I am finally found the discipline to make it through the entirety of the year, holding strong and hitting really just a lot of my goals. So I previously mentioned this in an earlier podcast, but I like splitting my priorities into like buckets, let's say. So I believe I previously grouped them as like work slash to do, self-help, my partner, fiance is a bucket, and then socializing is the last bucket. And in previous years, a large majority of my focus went into my work and my partner buckets. I mean, it's not a bad thing. That's just where I needed to prioritize most of my time, and I made a lot of excuses to myself where I was justifying that that's where I needed to focus on growing my skill set and being there for my partner as she was in her earlier years of medical school. So that's just really where a large majority of my time went. But this year, I've never dedicated more time than I did to the self-help category really in my entire life. And most of my 2023 resolutions had to do with this bucket. And just to give a quick recap, this has anything to do with really like my physical health or my mental health. For example, my first resolution in 2023 was to maintain a steady gym routine. There has never been a time in my life where I've consistently just gone to the gym for longer than a period of like 6 months, let's say. I typically can go for a good, like last a long time. And then usually like something like the work category or the work bucket like begins to take on more and more. And I throw my gym commitment just to the side. But this year, like I really told myself, you know what, I'm getting married in December. And the last thing you want to do is stand up there and not feel like confident about yourself, right? You want to feel like, you know what, she's making a good choice. I feel good standing up here. Like, let's do it, right? You don't want to have that shitty feeling. So I told myself, you know what, we're going to the gym 3 to 5 times a week and we are not going to stop. And overall, it's been a great experience. I mean, I put on like 20 pounds of weight, which is pretty crazy, but it's just a like healthier body weight for me. I feel good. I'm always kind of like sore, which kind of sucks, but overall, like, yeah, I mean, I'm happy I've stayed with it for this long. I always just feel like really accomplished as well with my week too, after I know that I've accomplished like my weekly goal of going 3 to 5 times per week. It's just like an extra pat on the back of like, oh, you're doing, you know what, you're doing a good job. You're staying with it. You're dedicated. And there were obviously many days where I was just like internally, I was like trying to make excuses for myself. I'd come up with different reasons why I shouldn't go, but I stayed strong and had the discipline. And now I can kind of redefine that goal as I go into 2024 as well and continue to really progress. And now beyond the physical health, I really needed to make a change in the mental health department, let's say too. I remember starting off 2023 and thinking, you know what, I'm now 5 years into my career and I am just nowhere close to where I wanted to be successfully. And after giving probably 75% of my day, my entire last 5 years into this work bucket and still feeling like I just haven't accomplished as much as I wanted to, I knew something had to change. So first, I made the commitment to myself that I wanted to change the type of content that I was really consuming. And like everyone else, I waste hours on hours and on end really scrolling through social media. And I never feel good after, right? I just feel like I've wasted a significant amount of time. And the same goes for like television too, really. I'd find myself watching like these really shitty like football games for like 3 hours for no reason. I didn't care about either of the teams. I didn't really care about the outcome. And I just wasn't invested in what I was watching. So this year I wanted to change that and make a significant switch. So I started investing quality time in the content that I'm consuming. Now, the first part of this like big mental health switch and content switch was listening to podcasts. Now, I love music, I really do, but I found myself just listening to the same like Spotify playlist and the same songs just over and over again whenever I was driving, I was at the gym. So instead, I started kind of branching out and finding podcasts that I really enjoyed. And a large majority of these provided like educational benefits. And of course, like I'd also listen to the occasional podcast that was just purely entertainment based or comedy based, but most of them were like educational to some extent. And once I came across a handful of people that I really enjoyed listening to, I made a relatively easy transition into audiobooks, I'd say, which provided even more benefits, right? I've listened to something like 36 audiobooks this year, and I have been able to just really take away some substantial information because most of these topics revolved around like self-help and channeling creativity and marketing and meditation and really just things that really help me day to day. Now, if you listen to this podcast, you know that the last few months have been a little hectic for me, to say the least, as I've been searching for a new role, a new job, which I'm happy to say that I have accepted an amazing offer, and I'm super excited about it. I'm going to start it in the new year. But during these hectic times, I heavily relied on the information from some of these books or podcasts, and they greatly impacted kind of my mental health as I was working through these hard times. But I kind of mentioned this before, when you're in a tough spot mentally and you're able to just recall certain like tactics or quotes or exercises that help you get through those moments, it almost feels like I've been like training for this, right? I've been training for these difficult times. So as I've been taking in all of this information throughout the year, I'm able to recall it. And during the last few months, I mean, I've been kind of in a rough spot mentally, but I've been able to really just focus on what I've learned and what I've taken in, and it's really helped me a lot. So that, I think, is a great takeaway from just one of these resolutions. And yeah, I mean, making a cognizant decision to switch up the content you're consuming has been probably one of the best decisions that I've made. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely a balance to it, I would say. I still listen to music daily. I watch sports a lot. I still watch reruns of The Office very often. But it's like getting off social media and listening to something that provides value is huge. I mean, I try to do that as much as often. I try to do that at least once a day, just finding time to really just learn on your own and prioritize that time. The next resolution I made in the self-help bucket was to find a hobby that I could prioritize while satisfying my creativity. And in early 2023, a friend and I started building out a podcast room for work, and I really kept toying around with the idea that, you know, it'd be fun creative challenge for me to start one myself. Previously, I've had hobbies, but they never like really lasted, right? Something always swoops in and takes over as a bigger priority. And working in social media, I never really prioritized my own social platforms for myself. But around like March, I would say, the room was finally complete, and I said, you know what, like, fuck it, let's see where this goes. Like that's all I can do, right? So I developed all of the branding for the channel. I started recording. I made a commitment. You know what? I'm going to post once a week, and I'm just going to talk about whatever I'm currently dealing with, right? Whatever topic currently flows into my mind, let's just work it out and talk about it. And I don't want to create any time restrictions on it. I just want to be consistent and post once a week, and that's the main goal. As long as I'm satisfying my creativity and making it a priority once a week. And now really, I mean, the rest is history. Having something each week that I'm prioritizing for myself has been great. And coming up with new topics is something that I really look forward to every week. And it's something that's really helped me just kind of focus on every week. It's something that I can just say, hey, you know what, take this time for yourself, go focus on this, go write, go look at for inspiration, do whatever you need to do. But it's also strangely helped me with public speaking, which is kind of an added bonus, I'd say. The last few months, I've been interviewing like crazy, and I feel like I've done a lot better, partially just because of this podcast. I mean, recording yourself and talking for 20 minutes on end is just a lot harder than I originally anticipated. But as I've gotten more comfortable, I've seen a pretty noticeable difference in how I talk to others, which brings me into my kind of last goal that I made for 2023, which was the only one outside of the self-help bucket, but I really wanted to make an effort in the socializing category. Over the last few years, I feel like I've just turned myself into this grumpy old man that only likes to stay at home or just be at work, right? And my fiance and I are very much homebodies, and we've just really dedicated so much time to our crafts and our careers over the last few years. And we don't really get out of our comfort zones as much or put ourselves in these social settings. So for me, I made the commitment to like reach out to old friends, check in, see how they're doing, going and grab like a coffee or lunch, not necessarily even with like people I was really even that close to. So that was really kind of a big step just to make that commitment and say, you know what, like let's get out of the house a little bit, right? And now beyond being an extremely introverted person, a large reason I'd say that I am not very social is because I hate the anxiety that I have when I like just have to engage in small talk. But really, with the help of my other like resolutions, I was able to slowly like really start getting over that. I felt more comfortable talking because of this podcast and going back to the content shift that I've been focusing on, that resolution. This gave me much more ammunition, I'd say, to have like meaningful conversations with people, just because I could talk about topics that I was really interested in. And a reason I had so much anxiety before was because I never really knew what to talk about or how to keep a conversation going. But with more meaningful topics I actually found interesting, I just really started diving into those. And as long as I have like those to pull from or a few things in my back pocket, that social anxiety like slowly starts to really just fade away. With all that said, I still have a long way to go, but that's where 2024 comes in, right? A perfect opportunity to make some goals for myself and just continue progressing. Now, these resolutions aren't super rigid right now, like, for example, going to the gym like 4 days a week, because I can't just keep adding all of this stuff on my plate and telling myself that I'm going to do them. Like, there's a balancing act to it. And once I find the right footing, like then I'll start creating some guidelines for myself. But goal number one for 2024 is to embrace change. 2024 is going to be a big adjustment year for me for a few reasons. So first, not only will I be starting a new job, but it's also a remote job. So that's kind of like an interesting transition in itself. I will be working right here, and I'll definitely be coming in less contact with people, and I'll be working from home and have to hold myself accountable. And so that's a one whole transition. But also my fiance is currently finishing up her interviews for her upcoming residency program, which will start in summer of 2024. And that will most likely require us to move out of state. So that is just a huge change in itself. That's no small task, just to kind of pick up your life and move to a new state. So that is something I want to embrace, but have it be in a like positive manner as well. And with the last few months just being so hectic for me, I've really just been trying to focus on embracing change that comes with life and practicing like patience. Like, I have learned I am the most impatient fucker on this planet, I think. And as I head into the new year, knowing there's going to be just so many more challenges that we're going to have to overcome, I want to not see them as obstacles, but as opportunities, and find the patience to really work through them in a productive and healthy manner, like I mentioned. And going off that, resolution number 2 will be to write and meditate on a consistent basis. I mean, these are two things that have really helped me over the last few months. It really just slows everything down for me and reminds you to really put things in perspective, I'd say. I mean, things can always be worse, right? And you can easily just get caught up in the rat race, the daily shit, and you stop recognizing kind of the small moments of joy that really take place. I mean, like even on like a daily level. Also, somewhat related to meditation, I've come to really focus on my breathing, and I've noticed that I'm such a mouth breather, man. And so this is a huge ick of mine in life, and it's fucking gross, I think. And as I'm meditating, I'm trying to focus on breathing, and I notice like my mouth just I want to breathe through my mouth, but I don't want to do that at the same time. So this is definitely something that I want to improve on in 2024, is not being such a fucking mouth breather. I hate it. I want to breathe through my nose. I don't know if there's something wrong with me. It's possible, but this is a huge change that goes along with the meditation. Like, stop breathing through your mouth. Let's fix this. This is gross. Okay, let's get over this. And lastly, for my resolutions, I just want to be more curious than judgmental. I feel like it's easy for me to look at someone and then just instantly make up an assumption about them. And I think that really hinders my ability to try new things or to meet new people. So come 2024, I want to make a conscious effort to just start asking why, I guess, a little bit more than usual. To be curious and to try new things without any bias is, in my opinion, I mean, like, not an easy objective to overcome. But through that, I think you get exposed to just a lot more. I mean, and as I'm starting all of these new endeavors in the new year, I want to be more comfortable saying, you know what, let's try it, right? Let's see where this goes. And overall, I mean, I'm really looking forward into the new year, into 2024. It'll be my first year as a married man, which is very exciting as well. But I don't think that will be much of a change because we're basically like already full-fledged married couple. I mean, the last few years we've lived together, we have a house. I mean, we're already married basically. So I don't think much is going to change in that regard, but that'll be exciting as well. But for you, if you don't have any New Year's resolutions yet, that's totally okay. Feel free to steal some of mine if you want. I think the biggest thing for me is when you're making some of these resolutions, just make sure to be like super realistic about it, I guess. Don't make these rigid, strict guidelines that you have to hit, because the moment something comes up in February, let's say, that knocks you on your ass, you're gonna just lose all momentum and you're just gonna quit just because you're like, oh, well, I already lost it, right? So why continue? But yeah, just make sure it's a realistic goal and keep with it. But that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. I really appreciate it. I'm very happy to see that we've made it all the way to episode 34. I mean, it's been pretty crazy to think that I've made it like this consistent for this long, for this podcast for 34 weeks. It's a long time, but yeah, I'm really happy to accomplish that goal and to keep doing this. And I'm excited to see where it goes in 2024 and in the new year. But that's all I have. So thanks, and I'll talk to you next week.